Catholic morality has to find a way to justify cheating on his wife, so love becomes his excuse. And if you love enough, you can't help it and you can't be blamed. All right, doctor, that's Marilyn Monroe's analysis of Bobby's love for me. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jess, and if you're new, then welcome. I would love to earn your subscription today. And I mean that. I don't take your time lightly. I try to focus on things in this channel and even on each episode that will give you something wonderful, a way to spend your time, a way to learn, hopefully a fun way to look back at the past and look at what has happened and then be able to order our world accordingly. That's my goal in each and every episode. And so I hope this channel serves you in whatever goals you have, whether you're recovering from a surgery, whether you are currently crocheting and you just need something interesting to listen to, whether you love to geek out about JFK, RFK, historical topics, the royal family, whatever goals this video might serve for you, I hope to further that. So today, we are getting into somebody that I have wanted to look at more deeply with all of you, Marilyn Monroe. And this is the Life magazine called Remember Marilyn, September 8th, 1972. So we are going to dig in to this today. I do want to go ahead and ask you, would you go ahead and like this video if you like it? Would you go ahead and check and see if you are subscribed? And then also, would you consider if there is a friend who would enjoy this topic that you could share the video with? I would be very grateful if you would. I'll just remind you, whenever I do my vintage magazines, I do not look at them in advance. I have not looked at this. So we are going to go through it together and I will share with you whatever I see. So the first thing I see is just beautiful 1973 Chevy trucks. Are any of you a Chevy fan? I kind of have a hankering for an old truck. At some point, if I'm, rich enough to peter around in my garden, I would love to have an old truck to pull an old trailer around in to go get mulch and use for my purposes. But, oh wow. The very first page that I turned to is called The Beat of Life, and it has this image it says, Ringling Brothers lion tamer Pablo Noel was well into his act at the Oakland Coliseum when Mousie, a 400-pound lioness, took a swipe at his face that left him stunned and bleeding. Recovered, Noel whipped Mousie into line, and then they kissed and made up. Wow, that's kind of crazy. I guess that's the danger of working with lionesses for your job. Oh, wow. We get some Kennedy things right here out of the start. So page 10. Our Life magazines, y'all, are not always this interesting. This one has Joan Kennedy. It says Joan Kennedy plays tennis left-handed and ranks herself only a beginner on the course. But Teddy's wife was one of the prettiest of the also-rans in a New York pro celebrity tournament, which was held to benefit a philanthropic foundation named for her late brother-in-law, Robert F. Kennedy. Look at how beautiful she is. Really genuinely stunning. My goodness. We have several episodes about Joan from, I think, August 2024. You can look on the Ask Not playlist. We read that whole book about many Kennedys, but we had at least 2 chapters about Joan specifically. So if you're interested in Joan Kennedy, that is something you could go check out on my channel. Okay, the title of the article that we are here for is called For Marilyn, a Look Back in Adoration. So this is the 10 years after her death look at Marilyn Monroe through photography. So that's what we're going to do together, but we will also read all of the captions and glean every bit of information and insight that we can from it. It says, time has burnished the legend which began while she was alive. And 10 years after her death, Marilyn Monroe is still the world's most famous blonde. Her name turns up in poems. Andy Warhol stenciled her face 20 times across one canvas, filling another with 168 of her tremulous smiles. She was a shy person, but the camera gave her confidence, and possibly no one knew her better than the men who photographed her. One of them, Larry Schiller, recently assembled an exhibit of 185 pictures, among them those shown here, by 15 photographers. Called Marilyn Monroe, The Legend and the Truth, the exhibit opened in Los Angeles' David Stewart Galleries before touring 30 U.S. cities. The first day, one Monroe fan walked in and ordered $1,600 worth of prints to decorate his den. Now, when we do the math for that, when we think about what a subscription to a magazine costs today versus that price that we just read, $1,600 is quite a lot of money. Would that be 5, 10,000, something along those lines, just the first day? We do have these two photos here. We have one of her in kind of a risque burlesque type outfit. And then this one is just a very simple, almost like an old sepia print of her face. Really beautiful. It says, posing for photographer Milton Green one afternoon in 1955, Marilyn confessed that what she most missed was not having a high school graduation picture. And so when Green finished the cheesecake top, so I guess that's the cheesecake, is that what that's saying? He shot a graduation picture for her, right. And a 29-year-old Marilyn, again, looked like a dreamy 17-year-old whose name had been Norma Jeane Doherty. I would love to know, those of you who are Marilyn fans, was she the first to popularize the beauty mark, or was that just a reflection of the age? Was that something that many were doing at the time? I don't actually know if she was the first one to do it or not. So along the top, I'm going to try to feature each set of these photos because we're given several on this spread. So just along the top first, we get all of the pinup shots along the top, just various shots of her, mostly in like bathing suit or lingerie type looks, more like stage looks, I guess, dance outfits. It says she peered straight into the camera with absolute trust, the perfect pinup, looking proud and architectural in her bathing suit and high heels. From the movie screen, her soft, luminous face beckoned to millions. In time, Marilyn's life spun out far beyond Norma Jeane's somber beginnings. Friends warned her of the star system, but her movies were top box office grossers. Critics praised her flair for comedy, and she was a star. Thinking that there was more to acting than just being a sex symbol, she studied at the Actors Studio. Some were amused that a pastel blonde with a jiggling walk wanted to be a serious actress. Just before she died at 36 from an overdose of sleeping pills in 1962, she said to a reporter, "Please don't make me a joke." Here we have a photo of her. It says, in 1962, she drank champagne with her friend, the poet Carl Sandburg. We have that there. She interrupted her honeymoon with Joe DiMaggio to visit American troops in Korea in 1954. I didn't realize she had done that. My grandfather served in the Korean War. I wonder if you had anyone that served in your family. But I don't believe he saw Marilyn Monroe. I do think, actually, I think during World War II, my grandfather said that their ship had been attacked. He was on the Chester. And so they went to a nearby island to do some training. But at the time, Rock Hudson was making a film. And so he called on the troops to do some background, extra work or something like that. And so my grandfather got to see Rock Hudson at that point, but he didn't get to see Marilyn Monroe. Here we have, it says, when her health was fragile, she was shaky on camera, and her career was ebbing when she made her last movie, The Misfits, in 1960. But the Nevada weather was fair, and for a moment, as she emerged from a swim between takes, her smile contained a flash of the young Norma Jeane. Yes, this is not the electric look of Marilyn. This is just her actually smiling. She vacationed in Amagansett, LI. What is that, Long Island? Is that what that is? What is LI? With her fiance, playwright Arthur Miller, in 1956. But there was never a holiday from the telephone, her personal antidote to loneliness. Even when she was happy, an hour rarely passed when she didn't find somebody to call. It's funny the way that was a thing. All the way up through the 90s, being on the phone a lot was kind of a thing that we did. And now a lot of people avoid their phones. I do too. I avoid my phone. It says, married briefly at 16 to merchant seaman Jim Doherty, her romantic troubles really began when her 1954 marriage to Joe DiMaggio failed. Her spirits soared when, in 1956, she wed Miller and Amagansett left. So that is she and Arthur Miller there. It says, but the bubble burst, and in 1960, they were divorced. We get a final photo of her. It says, in 1972, this is my favorite. She might be a housewife in her velour robe and sleep-smudged eyes. Yet beside this photograph in an album she made for a friend's birthday, the glamorous star crayoned, "This is my favorite." She liked it, she said, because it was Norma Jeane. You know, we've heard that before, that Marilyn had this capacity to switch on and switch off Marilyn. And that when she went out with, sometimes she would go out with a different wig, or she would pull a hat over and not do her makeup. And that when she didn't put on the character of Marilyn, that the average person in the street would not recognize her, which is pretty remarkable, I think, that she was able to pull that off. But she liked this one because it was Norma Jeane. I think that's interesting. I think it shows some personal growth too, that she recognized the difference and that she valued herself. This was the cover, Remember Marilyn, but what she liked the most was Norma Jeane. That's interesting. Well, since we clearly have time, I'm going to pull out another Remembering Marilyn magazine that I have, and we're just going to get both in the same episode. So let me go grab it. Okay, well, when I picked up this magazine, I apparently did not look very carefully because, and in a good way, I guess, this whole episode has already been focused on photographic evidence of Marilyn. So I think we'll stick there because what I realized is that this is from the National Enquirer's secret files. So we are going to find photography of Marilyn, but probably not much else that is reliable. For those of you who are outside the American sphere of magazinery, the National Enquirer is pretty low. We laugh at it in the shopping aisles, but there is nothing of serious merit in a National Enquirer. However, this one is entirely focused. It says over 200 rare pictures from the Enquirer's secret files, Marilyn, shocking scandals of her life and death. So I probably will not do much reading from this magazine, but we can take a look at her life. We have 1926 to 1962, Marilyn Monroe. We will read this little introduction page. It says she's been gone now for 50 years. So this was done in 2012, I suppose. But screen goddess Marilyn Monroe still remains a mystery. Part saint, part sinner, all woman, we are forever fascinated and haunted by the life and untimely death of the woman who became the quintessential sex symbol. In this special collector's edition, the editors of the National Enquirer open up their secret files to reveal dark secrets Marilyn hid from the world. Well, I'm not even going to merit this with a reading. I am way more interested in just getting that general overview of her life like we have talked about before. So we do have her childhood. We have these photos of a little blonde girl. It says it's a miracle that she survived. Her birth mother, Gladys, was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic. It's actually pretty rare. I guess because she was so famous, she would have had this photo. But I don't have photos like this of my grandmother, who was born in 1924, so would have been a contemporary of Marilyn's. We have childhood photos of her. It says, Norma Jeane said that her mother, Gladys, never kissed me or held me in her arms and hardly had spoken to me. Wow. So there she is, a pretty child, but not amazingly beautiful. Not some sort of child that you would say, oh, she has to be on the cover of every you know, diapers package or whatever. She became a ward of the state at the Los Angeles Orphans Home, later called Holly Grove. So that's where she was. And then we get some of adolescent Marilyn. I know those of you who are big Marilyn fans will enjoy photos like this. I wish I could read it with any sort of certainty, but honestly, I feel like I would probably be misinforming myself by reading much of this information. So it talks about problems that were had in the foster homes. I'm just not going to spend much time on that. But here we have a young Norma Jeane. The pretty starry-eyed girl always managed to smile despite her dysfunctional upbringing. So there she is. Who knew what she would become in that cute little proper suit? No one could have predicted what she would become later. Here she is, a bride at 16. It says Jim Doherty was a blue-collar worker with Lockheed Aircraft. This is them in their wedding photo. And then as a young bride, very cute. Jim's tour of duty with the Merchant Marines and Norma Jeane's burning desire to make it in Hollywood spelled doom for the couple. Yes. The things I have read indicate that she was bored out of her mind and couldn't bear to not pursue Hollywood. But she was lovely. Look at that haircut. Wasn't that indicative of the age? Almost like a heart-shaped haircut. It's very pretty. That 1940s look. Well, here she is. You ought to be in pictures. It shows her immersing herself in acting, dancing, and singing lessons. Here she is. A young swimsuit photo shoot. It says at first her modeling career fared better than her acting work. She landed a first national magazine cover in the Family Circle. Look at her photo. My goodness. Yeah, she's beautiful, but definitely not on brand, as we would say now. Definitely not in the vein of what she would become. Here we have... It says she was such a cute little number, this stray kitten. That's a very kind of sweet and seductive photo, even though she's basically covered up. But very seductive there. And then here we have her young bathing suit photos that are pretty well known, I guess. The camera loved Marilyn. She would spend all her money from modeling gigs on her car, rent, and acting classes. She also confessed to taking unsavory side jobs in order to eat. This gets into, which those of you who know about her life can tell me, it says she had an affair with Johnny Hyde, a powerful executive vice president of the William Morris Agency. She was 22 and he was 55. Again, there's a lot of information here that I'm just not going to get into because I don't find it credible at all. But here is her marriage to Joe DiMaggio. So they had this publicity photo that's super racy, actually. Those long legs and high heels with shorts. It says this was all it took for Joe DiMaggio to become smitten with Marilyn. There's their marriage license, a photo, the world's most beautiful blonde, and the world's most revered baseball player tied the knot at San Francisco City Hall on January 14th, 1954. Then there they are coming out. You know, I have heard that he was controlling toward her and that's why she divorced him. But I will also say my understanding is that until he died, he had roses delivered to her grave, that he tried to pursue the circumstances around her death, that he really seemed to be the one man who actually did genuinely love Marilyn. This note between them, it says one of Marilyn's handwritten love notes to Joe was auctioned off for $36,000 by Hunt Auctions in 2006. I don't know how to tell you just how much I miss you. I love you till my heart could burst. All I love, all I want, all I need is you forever. I want to just be where you are and be just what you want me to be. I know it's lousy of me to be so late so often, and I promise to try 1,000,000 times harder, I promise. That's funny. Here it shows a photo of them bikini clad at the beach, And then a gorgeous pearl necklace that was given to Marilyn by Joe during their honeymoon in Japan. Well, that would be the place to get pearls for sure. Here we have the pose that made Marilyn famous in 7 Year Itch, but made Joe seethe. Yes, this was supposedly what he got mad about and gripped her arm very tightly. Marilyn and her attorney addressed the issue of their divorce. We have moments of her on the silver screen with Groucho Marx, with Betty Davis, Dick Powell, Alan Hale, and of course her famous photo there, the iconic scene and where her dress billowed over a subway grate. We have more photos of her next to various executives, Zsa Zsa Gabor, we have Cary Grant here, all sorts of fellow stars. Goodness, it goes on and on, doesn't it? Gentlemen prefer blondes. It takes a smart brunette to play a dumb blonde is the quote. That's funny. Here she is again and again playing the dumb blonde. The 7 Year Itch, The Prince and the Showgirl. I don't think I realized she did this many movies. This is quite a career over a short period of time, it seems to me. Some Like It Hot, Let's Make Love, The Misfits, Something's Got to Give. Then it gets into her later marriage with Arthur Miller. It says that she enjoyed a quiet moment at home with him, that there was tenderness between them. At first, she really loved him, and then this shows them announcing to marry. And she craved his approval, that she constantly wanted to please. It says they were haunted by baby heartbreak. And so here she was pregnant and rushed to a hospital where she had an ectopic pregnancy. My goodness. Arthur Miller is the one lifting the suitcase in the back while she's being rushed away. That would be tragic. And you guys that are Marilyn experts can let us know in the comments, but my understanding is that he began to kind of patronize her and resent her and treat her as if she wasn't intellectual enough anymore, that almost like he grew embarrassed of her, and that played a significant role in the downfall of their relationship. Well, here are portraits of Marilyn, and the years are next to them. So I'm just going to quietly let you guys look at those. There she is, 1945. We have these below, 1957. You know, I personally prefer these ones where she is earthy and herself. I know that there's, of course, something like alluring about the made-up photos and the ones where she's all propped up. But even this one, I greatly prefer this bottom one where she is just clearly herself to the middle one where she's putting on a look that's like a come-hither look. I would much rather see the real person. Here she is in another pin-up moment at the beach. You do see this hardening and almost like a desertion, like she's not present anymore, which is such a dangerous thing. I think sometimes we can see it in a celebrity where their innocence has gone. The thing that made us drawn to them is slowly being chiseled away, and what remains is somebody hardened, cynical, making odd jokes at awards shows, hollow in a way. And it's hard to watch. It's sad to watch. That's why, like, I don't know about you guys, I had beautiful babies, and I had particular children that I remember people would come up and see them in the stroller and be like, you need to reach out to a modeling agency. He is gorgeous, like such a beautiful baby. And I never, ever wanted my children to be famous because there is such a danger in it. And so, I don't know, the potential payoff to be a world-renowned star is not worth it to me, to have a shortened, sorrowful, hollow life where the people who surround you are false and presenting false images. You are encouraged to present a false image and to believe your own hype and not ever actually deal with the person within. I think the more that Marilyn did deal with the person within, she seemed to be a very lovely and interesting person. She apparently was very intelligent and loved to read. One of the articles that we read talked about the way that she actually loved to think about home interior design and gardening, and that she had ideas about that she had particular things she wanted done in a particular way, and was cultivating a particular style. That was not just like a hollow, like go to the store and order that exact room and give me all of that because that's what I want my house to look like. Like very much I want some of these things from Mexico. I like these plants. You know, just having a vision for her life and the sphere around her and how she wanted her environment to look that was interesting. So I think she was a person that had depth and had the capacity for depth. But the thing that sadly people wanted from her was just that, you know, smoldering put on look that she knew she could click on and it could pay the bills, but it wasn't really who she was on the inside. It wasn't her heart. Dangerous liaisons. Now we get to it. Although I can't read National Enquirer's thoughts about it, but here's that famous only photo that's known in existence that shows Bobby Kennedy, Marilyn in that dress that Kim Kardashian ruined a couple years ago. But this is that Happy Birthday, Mr. President dress that was sewn onto her body. And then President Kennedy there. So this in that bookshelf lined room is the only known photograph of the three of them from that evening when she sang to him. Jack Kennedy at that reception with the giant cake, and it says Jackie Kennedy refused to attend. She did. She stayed away because Marilyn was involved. The way that Maureen Callahan tells it is that that was her final ultimatum. No more Marilyn in your life or I walk. And that she apparently got some sort of financial settlement from old Joe Kennedy in order to stay in the marriage, but that it was contingent on Jack saying never again with Marilyn, that there would not be any public or private interactions that would embarrass Jackie anymore. When Marilyn sang to him, JFK famously joked, "Thank you. I can now retire from politics, having had Happy Birthday sung to me in such a sweet, wholesome way." Ooh. You know, there are some elements where JFK reminds me of Bill Clinton, and his walking that line and crossing that line with women is one of those. I could totally see Bill Clinton joking like this when he was back in his heyday, when he was in his 40s and 50s, and there was all sorts of, you know, swirls of rumors. I could see him being able to put it off with a joke because he was that charismatic. We have Jackie and Jack there. That is the back picture of Marilyn in the dress. And then there's this frontal shot, but we don't ever get, apparently she stood behind the podium. So there's not a full shot of the dress from her from the front, I believe. The sex siren gave the president a gold Rolex watch for his birthday. The special message was inscribed on the back. It says, "Happy birthday, Mr. President." I wonder if this is true. It says, "Jack, with love as always from Marilyn," with the date. Marilyn wanted Bobby to leave wife Ethel. So this is another whole rabbit trail that we could go down, would be what was going on between RFK and Marilyn, and did he actually make Marilyn believe that he was about to leave his wife? The perception is that Dorothy Kilgallen, which we had 2 whole episodes about her. If you don't know who Dorothy Kilgallen is, woo, that's a story. But that she put in her little gossip column that Marilyn Monroe and a very illustrious figure were having an affair and more news might be coming soon. And I believe 2 days later, within 2 days, Marilyn was dead. That's my understanding. In her final days, we are told that she made private tapes for her doctor, Dr. Greenson. I'm not going to trust the National Enquirer's telling of that, but here she is with Clark Gable. Here she is with Laurence Olivier. And we're coming down to the end of it now. We have various people who were associated with her. apparently on the tapes, here is what she said about JFK and RFK. She said, on JFK, this man is going to change our country. No child will go hungry. No person will sleep in the street and get his meals from garbage cans. I'm glad he has Bobby. It's like the Navy. The president is the captain and Bobby is his executive officer. Bobby would do absolutely anything for his brother, and so would I. I'll never embarrass him. As long as I have memory, I have John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And then on RFK, what should I do about Bobby, she lamented. She said there was no room for Bobby in her life and insisted she wanted to call it quits but didn't have the guts to do so. She was planning to ask JFK to break the news to Bobby. Maybe I should stop being a coward and tell him myself. His Catholic morality has to find a way to justify cheating on his wife, so love becomes his excuse. And if you love enough, you can't help it and you can't be blamed. All right, doctor, that's Marilyn Monroe's analysis of Bobby's love for me. This is presenting it as if these are her actual transcripts. I wonder if that's true. If you know about that, would you let me know? Now, this gets into the secret Marilyn Monroe files, which of course the National Enquirer would not have access to. So we're not going to belabor that point, but perhaps these will one day come out. And if so, I would love to have them. I would love to know what has been said. Now, perhaps some of these have been released. And if so, if you know about that, let me know. I would love to hear what Hoover and others were doing and whether or not that was being used to blackmail the Kennedys. That would be great to know. Well, they have words from her. They have a few look at Last Days of a Legend. Look at this one. This is one of those real photos of her that I actually like. Her hair's a little messy. She's behind a blanket, but she looks like herself, doesn't she? She looks like a person. That's one of my beefs with celebrities now. I feel like they get so much face work done that they don't actually look like human beings anymore. They all look like similar looks. They all have the same chiseling. They lack any sorts of lines at all. They just look fake. They don't look like people. So I want a person, and she looks like a person. When she's there in her messy hair, she's beautiful. She's clearly she's probably getting facials. She's probably, got an expert makeup artist. Of course, there's work being done to make her look beautiful, but she's just a person. She's a person who looks like a normal person. She doesn't look overly gaunt. She doesn't look creepy in her fakeness. I just get so sick of the fakery. Well, here we have Eunice Murray, the one that we read the article about. That's her housekeeper that was there with her the night that she passed away, and that's her house where she passed. Eunice Murray, if you're interested in that article, if you haven't listened to it yet, she gives her whole testimony in, I believe it was Redbook magazine. We read the whole thing, and it was about the night Marilyn Monroe died. So I will link to that in the show notes. You can find that. It is a fascinating account that she gave. Now, I will tell you, some people have said in the comments of that show that she gave multiple accounts of her evening that night. And so who knows if that one, but it was written a good 8 or 10 years after her passing, I believe. And so it's a good account to look at to know what Eunice Murray was saying about that night. Finally, we get the question, was Marilyn murdered? It shows her body being wheeled out. What really happened the night that she died? Did she simply take too many sleeping pills? So here we have her messy bed. We have the broken window. Now, the broken window was so that Eunice and the doctor could get inside because the door where Marilyn was locked. So Eunice testified that that broken window was not like a break-in or anything like that, that they used that to just be able to get into the room. There are Nembutal sleeping pills on the nightstand in Marilyn's bed. The final pages of this magazine do get into RFK's visit to her house that final day, which he did do. So there is definitely an RFK, Marilyn's death connection that's worth exploring. I'm just not sure that we have the information, at least not that I've seen, to for sure make sense of RFK's presence earlier on the day when Marilyn passed away. Now, some people claim that he was also there that evening. And if so, that starts to get tricky. But if he just visited her the day before and then she passed the afternoon and had multiple conversations and met with her agent and talked with her housekeeper and then at 1, 2 a.m. in the morning passed away, then that's a different picture than if he was there that evening. So I do want to read a book about that at some point. So I'd love to do that with you all. If you are interested, you can let me know in the comments. Well, it says that she was planning to hold a morning press conference. I don't know if that to be true. I haven't heard that to be true. Have you? And then we have a picture of her funeral. It says that Joe DiMaggio and his soldier son were there, that he was crying and wiping away tears, and that now there's a pink marble crypt that holds her body. Well, 3 times a week for the next 20 years, he delivered fresh flowers to her grave. So 3 times a week. I didn't realize that. There was no trace left of Norma Jeane now, no sign of the vulnerable, lost girl who was overtaken by stardom that rolled over her old life so fast she could never quite keep up. There are still her films, of course, and the indelible images that mean her unmistakable blonde beauty is forever preserved, just as recognizable now as it was 50 years ago. And there is a pink marble wall crypt at the Corridor of Memories, number 24 in LA, with a bronze plaque carrying the simple inscription, Marilyn Monroe, 1926 to 1962. So that is what we get about Marilyn Monroe from the National Enquirer. And, for not having read the words mostly, that was a good collection of images, wasn't it? A little bit of a picture of her life and its timing. And I did enjoy seeing this look at Marilyn as well. So you guys let me know what you appreciated in the comments. Let me know what stands out to you. And please fill in my missing gaps. If you have a book to recommend about Marilyn, I would be glad to hear that. Leave that in the comments as well. And I always, just so you know, if you add a book recommendation, I add those to an Amazon list. And then when I'm going to look at the next book that I'm going to choose as a read aloud for the channel, I review every single one of those to be sure that I am, if I'm going to choose a book about Marilyn, I will make sure that I look at every single book on the list that has anything to do with Marilyn so that I can choose the very best one. So, and I would love to hear from you about any recommendations you have in that regard. I hope you'll come back for that next episode. We'll see you soon. Have a great day. Bye.